The island breeze carried the scent of salt and exotic flowers as we stepped off the boat, hands intertwined. The golden bands on our fingers still felt unfamiliar, yet strangely right. Adam and I had spent a year planning this honeymoon. 7 nights at a private resort where the ocean met the sky in endless shades of sapphire. It was supposed to be the perfect beginning of our forever. But even as I smiled, even as I pressed my body against my husband's and let him kiss me under the setting sun, a strange unease curled inside me. Our honeymoon suite was perched on the edge of the island, a lavish villa with an infinity pool and a panoramic view of the endless blue. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. I remember standing on the balcony that first evening, a glass of champagne in my hand, watching the waves. Adam came up behind me, his arms circling my waist, his lips pressing against my shoulder. "Happy," he murmured. I turned to him with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Of course," I whispered, and maybe in that moment I meant it. That night, we walked down to the resort's open-air bar, nestled under glowing lanterns. The air was thick with laughter, the clink of glasses, the scent of rum and citrus mingling with the salty breeze. Adam ordered us drinks, his hand warm on my thigh. I leaned into him, letting myself relax. And then it happened. A presence. A gaze. I felt it before I saw him, a pull, something magnetic, something dark. When my eyes finally landed on him, he was already watching me. Sitting at the far end of the bar, drink in hand, his gaze burned through me as if he knew something I didn't. He was tall, lean, effortlessly confident. But it wasn't just his looks that unsettled me. It was the way he looked at me, as if he recognized me, as if he had been waiting. I tore my gaze away, turning back to Adam, who was obliviously scrolling through a wine list. My skin prickled. My heart raced. I told myself it was nothing, just a stranger in a bar. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had seen him before. That night, as we lay in bed, Adam asleep beside me, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Envelope with arrow. "I've missed you. See you at midnight on the beach." My breath caught. A mistake. A wrong number. Had to be. I deleted the message immediately. But sleep didn't come easy, because for the first time since we had arrived, I wasn't sure if this was a honeymoon for 2 or 3. The next morning, the island was drenched in golden sunlight, the waves crashing gently against the shore as if nothing had changed. But something had. I kept telling myself the message was a mistake, a wrong number, a coincidence. But it wasn't just the message. It was the way I felt, the way my skin tingled with unease, the way my mind kept returning to that man at the bar. Adam was already up, standing on the terrace with a cup of coffee, looking out at the ocean. He turned and smiled when he saw me. "Morning, beautiful," he said, setting down his cup and pulling me into his arms. His lips brushed against mine, soft and familiar, but something inside me had shifted. I forced a smile. "Morning." Breakfast was served by the infinity pool, tropical fruit, fresh pastries, everything perfectly arranged on white linen. Adam was relaxed, scrolling through his phone, planning our day, snorkeling, a couple's massage, maybe dinner at the cliffside restaurant. But I couldn't focus, because he was here, the stranger from last night, sitting just a few loungers away, shirtless, sunglasses on, sipping from a tall glass of something bright and citrusy. And he was watching me. I swallowed hard and looked away. But I could feel it, his presence pressing against my skin, his attention like fingertips trailing over me. Was I imagining this? Was my mind playing tricks on me? I had to say something. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Did you see that guy over there last night? At the bar?" Adam barely looked up. "Which guy?" I hesitated. If I pointed him out now, I'd have to explain why I noticed him in the first place. "Never mind," I muttered, stabbing my fork into a piece of pineapple. We spent the day on the water, snorkeling in the coral reefs, laughing as the fish darted around us. I tried to focus on Adam, on the perfect blue ocean, on the way his hands fell on my waist as he pulled me against him in the waves. But even in the middle of paradise, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. That night, Adam decided to go into town for some shopping. "You can come if you want," he said, pulling on a linen shirt, his tan skin glowing in the soft light of our villa. I hesitated. I should have gone with him. I should have left the room. But instead, I said, I think I'll stay. Take a bath. Read a little. He kissed my forehead. Okay, be back soon. And then I was alone. I poured myself a glass of wine, turned on some soft music, and ran a bath. The water was warm, scented with jasmine and vanilla. I slid in, letting it soothe my nerves. And then I heard it, a knock at the door. My breath caught. I wrapped a towel around myself, heart pounding as I stepped into the living room. Another knock. I hesitated, then opened the door just a crack. It was him, standing there, barefoot, a lazy smile on his lips, as if he belonged here. Sorry, he said, his voice smooth, deep. Did I startle you? I tightened my grip on the towel. What are you doing here? His smile deepened. I was in the area. Thought I'd say hello. I swallowed hard. I think you have the wrong room. He tilted his head. Doi. I should have slammed the door. I should have told him to leave. But I didn't, because in that moment, something dark, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I wanted him to go. I should have slammed the door. I should have called for security, locked myself in the bathroom, done anything but what I did next. I hesitated. He leaned against the door frame, shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal the hard lines of his collarbone. He was confident, effortless, as if he knew exactly how this was going to play out, as if he had been here before. I think you should leave, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. He smirked. If that's what you really want. The way he said it, low, teasing, like he already knew my answer, made my stomach tighten. He took a step closer, and I felt it again, that invisible pull. The air between us thickened, charged with something unspoken. I gripped the edge of my towel. You don't even know me. His eyes flickered with something dark, something knowing. Are you sure about that? A chill ran through me. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but then my phone buzzed from the coffee table behind me. Adam. Reality crashed down. I took a sharp breath, my heart pounding against my ribs. I turned my back to him, reaching for my phone, desperate to steady myself. But as I did, he moved, a whisper of air, a brush of warmth. His fingers skimmed the damp skin of my arm as he passed by me, stepping into my villa like he belonged there. I froze. What the hell are you doing? My voice was hoarse, barely more than a whisper. He turned, standing just a few feet away now, his presence suffocating. Relax. Just having a look around. I swallowed hard. I needed to get him out of here. Now. But something about the way he looked at me, like he was unraveling me, layer by layer, made it impossible to move. Is your husband the jealous type? He asked casually, trailing a fingertip along the edge of the marble countertop. My stomach clenched. That's none of your business. He smiled, slow and deliberate. Oh, but it is. I wanted to scream, to shove him out the door, to tell him he was insane. But before I could react, he turned toward the open balcony doors, where the sheer curtains fluttered in the evening breeze. You should close these at night, he murmured. Anyone could be watching. A shiver ran down my spine. His gaze flicked back to me, something unreadable in his eyes. Midnight on the beach, he said softly. You didn't answer. The air left my lungs. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. That message, the one I had deleted, it was him. He knew. I took a step back, gripping my towel like a lifeline. Get out. He didn't move at first, just watched me, as if deciding something. Then, finally, he took a slow step toward the door. See you soon, Emma. And then he was gone. The second the door clicked shut, my knees gave out. I sank onto the couch, gasping for breath. How did he know my name? I stared at my phone, Adam's message still unread on the screen. My fingers hovered over it, but I couldn't bring myself to open it. Not yet, because my mind was still reeling, my skin still burning where the stranger had touched me. Because deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew the truth. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a game, and I had just played my first move. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt his presence, his touch still lingering on my skin like a whisper I couldn't shake. The way he said my name, the certainty in his voice. He wasn't guessing. He knew me, and I had no idea how. Adam returned late from town, a shopping bag in hand, humming to himself as he placed a small velvet box on the nightstand. "Just a little surprise for you tomorrow," he said with a grin. His lips brushed mine, warm and familiar. "I love you, Em." My stomach twisted. I forced a smile. "I love you too." But my mind was elsewhere. Out on the beach, in the dark, where I knew he would be waiting. I told myself I wouldn't go. I told myself 100 times as I lay in bed beside my husband, staring at the ceiling while Adam's breath rose and fell steadily beside me. But at 11:50 p.m., I slipped out of bed. The night air was thick and humid, the sound of waves crashing against the shore rhythmic, hypnotic. The beach was almost empty, just a few scattered lanterns casting flickering pools of golden light on the sand. My heart pounded as I stepped onto the cool surface, scanning the shadows. I shouldn't be here. I should turn back. But then I saw him. He was leaning casually against one of the wooden posts near the shoreline, the moonlight catching on the sharp edges of his face. He was waiting, like he knew I'd come. I hesitated, then forced myself forward, arms crossed over my chest. "Who are you?" I demanded, keeping my voice low. His smile was slow, almost amused. "You really don't remember? Do you?" My pulse thundered in my ears. "Remember what?" He took a step closer, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. "Paris, 3 years ago." The words hit me like a slap. My mouth went dry. No, it couldn't be. Paris was a mistake. A fleeting moment in a city where I had felt lost, where I had let myself be reckless for one single night. I'd been alone back then, not married, not engaged, just a woman drifting through a foreign city, drinking too much wine, dancing with a stranger whose name I never even asked. A stranger with storm-dark eyes and a dangerous smile. No, it couldn't be him. I took a step back. "You're lying." He reached into his pocket and pulled something out, holding it up to the moonlight. A silver lighter, its surface scratched and worn. My breath caught. I knew that lighter. I had held it in my hands once. I had kissed him with the taste of whiskey on my lips while he lit a cigarette in the cool Parisian night. My stomach lurched. "You left in the morning," he said, his voice softer now. "Didn't even say goodbye." I swallowed hard. That was years ago. And yet, here we are. My head spun. This wasn't possible. This was insane. I forced a shaky breath. That was a mistake. A drunken night. It meant nothing. His jaw tightened. It meant something to me. I turned away, panic surging through me. I needed to leave. I needed to get back to Adam, to the safety of our room, to pretend this never happened. But then he spoke again, his voice cutting through the night like a blade. "Does Adam know?" I froze. Slowly, I turned back. "Know what?" His gaze locked onto mine, unyielding. "That you were mine first." A chill slithered down my spine. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could say a word, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Envelope with arrow. Tonight was unforgettable. Let's do it again. The message wasn't from him. It was from my phone, sent to his number. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. I hadn't sent it. I looked up, fear gripping my throat. He smirked. "Looks like you're playing after all, Emma." I staggered back, my breath shallow, my grip tightening on my phone, as if holding it could somehow undo what I had just seen. The message. My name attached to it. A message I had never sent. He watched me, amusement flickering in his dark eyes. "You look pale," he murmured, tilting his head. "Did I scare you?" My stomach twisted. "How did you do that?" My voice was barely above a whisper. He chuckled low and slow. "You think it's hard to send a message from your own phone? You should be more careful with your passwords." My blood ran cold. My mind reeled, trying to process what he was saying. Had he been in my phone? How long had he been in my life without me knowing? I took a shaky step back, but he didn't follow. He just stood there, perfectly still, like a predator who knew his prey had nowhere to run. "This is insane," I managed to say. "I don't even know you." His lips twitched. "But you did." He held up the silver lighter again, turning it between his fingers. "And maybe you'd like to pretend that night in Paris didn't happen, but I don't forget, Emma, and I don't like being forgotten." I shook my head, panic clawing at my ribs. That was a lifetime ago. It didn't mean anything. He let out a slow breath, his gaze never leaving mine. Didn't it? Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. The waves crashed against the shore, distant and unimportant. My heart hammered in my chest. I needed to leave. I needed to get out of here. I turned on my heel and rushed back toward the resort. My bare feet sank into the cool sand, my pulse racing. Every step felt too slow, the distance between me and the safety of my room too far. I reached the villa and slammed the door behind me, locking it. My breathing was ragged as I pressed my back against the door, my hands shaking. This was a nightmare, a mistake. I had to wake up. I moved toward the bed, needing to feel Adam's warmth, to remind myself of what was real. But when I stepped into the bedroom, my breath caught. The window was open, and the bed, our bed, wasn't as we had left it. The sheets were rumpled, the pillows displaced, as if someone had been there, as if someone had been waiting. My pulse roared in my ears. This wasn't possible. Adam had been with me all day. I had locked the door when he left for town. No one had a key but us. Then my phone vibrated again. Envelope with thorough, I told you. We're not done yet. The room spun. My knees nearly buckled. And then I heard it, water running. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, steam curling from the opening. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass of the shower. I gripped the edge of the nightstand for balance. Adam was supposed to be gone. He wasn't supposed to be back yet. But what if it wasn't Adam? The door creaked open further. The steam poured into the room. I took a slow step forward, my pulse hammering against my ribs. Adam. My voice cracked. The water shut off. Silence. The door swung open. And standing there, towel slung low on his hips, droplets sliding down his chest, was him. A lazy, knowing smile curved his lips. Miss me? I choked on a breath. My mind screamed at me to run, to do something, anything. But I couldn't move, because on the bathroom counter, next to the sink, was my phone. Unlocked. And next to it, another phone, Adam's. I felt the world tilt beneath me as the horrifying realization crashed over me. This wasn't just about the past. This was about now. And he wasn't the only one with secrets. My breath caught in my throat. The steam curled around him, the scent of my husband's soap clinging to his skin. But it wasn't Adam standing there. It was him, the man from the bar, the man from Paris, the man who had somehow found me, pulled me back into something I had buried deep, something I had promised myself never to think about again. He leaned casually against the doorframe, rubbing a towel over his damp hair, like this was normal, like he belonged here. What? My voice broke, my body frozen in place. How the hell did you get in here? He smirked, the same way your husband does. He tilted his head toward the nightstand, where Adam's phone sat next to mine, the screen still glowing. My stomach twisted violently. You're lying. His smirk deepened. Am I? The air in the room was suffocating. My mind raced, trying to piece together the impossible. This wasn't just about me. This wasn't just about Paris. This was about Adam. I grabbed his towel and shoved him back, my fingers digging into his bare chest as I hissed. Where's my husband? His expression didn't change. Why don't you check your messages? I hesitated, my heart hammering against my ribs, but I reached for my phone. My hands shook as I opened my texts. Envelope with arrow Adam. I had to step out for a bit. Don't wait up for me. My breath came fast, ragged. That wasn't his writing style. It wasn't how Adam messaged me. My head snapped up, my grip tightening on the phone. What did you do to him? His eyes darkened, amusement fading. Nothing. A beat of silence. Yet, a chill raced down my spine. My mind spun, trying to connect the pieces. Adam was gone. This man was here. He had his phone. But the worst part? I wasn't even sure Adam was innocent. I licked my lips, my voice barely above a whisper. What do you want from me? He stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, backing me up against the dresser. The truth. I swallowed hard. I don't. He cut me off. You do. His fingers traced lightly down my arm, and I hated how my skin burned at the contact. Tell me, Emma, did you ever tell Adam about Paris? A lump formed in my throat. No, I hadn't. Not because I wanted to keep secrets. Not because I had done something I regretted. But because the night in Paris had been a mistake. A moment of weakness. A desperate attempt to feel something when my life had been spiraling. I hadn't even known Adam back then. But somehow, this stranger knew about him. He leaned in, his lips just inches from my ear. He knows. My heart stopped. I shoved him back, my hands shaking. You're lying. He chuckled. You keep saying that. And yet, you haven't once asked me how I know him. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the dresser, trying to steady myself. My mind screamed at me to think, to make sense of this. You're playing games, I said, but my voice didn't sound like my own. His gaze locked onto mine, unflinching. So is Adam. I wanted to scream at him, tell him he was wrong, that my husband wasn't a liar, that this was the only betrayal happening here. But then my phone vibrated again. Envelope with Thero, unknown number. Are you enjoying your little reunion? You're not the only one with secrets, love. My breath hitched. I looked up, my pulse hammering. His eyes met mine, knowing, now do you see? I barely heard myself whisper, who the hell are you? A slow smile spread across his lips. The man you should have never walked away from. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the villa felt too tight, the air too thick. The man in front of me, the stranger I thought I had left behind in Paris, stood watching me like he had already won. Like he knew something I didn't. And maybe he did. My phone was still in my hand, the message from the unknown number glaring back at me. Envelope with Thero. Are you enjoying your little reunion? You're not the only one with secrets, love. My hands shook. My mind raced. Adam. Where the hell was Adam? I lifted my gaze to the man standing inches away, his towel slung low on his hips, his skin still damp from the shower in my hotel room. Where is he? My voice came out hoarse, unsteady. His smirk didn't fade. He's fine. For now. Panic clawed up my throat. My husband was missing. His phone was here. His things were here. But he was gone. And this man, this ghost from my past, was standing in his place. I needed to think. I needed to move. I took a slow, shaky breath and forced my voice to stay calm. If you heard him, his hand shot out, fingers brushing against my jaw as he tilted my face up to meet his. You think I'm the villain here, Emma? His voice was smooth, almost gentle. What if I told you Adam isn't the man you think he is? A chill ran down my spine. You're lying. That damn smirk returned. Am I? I shoved his hand away. You keep saying that, but you haven't given me a single reason to believe you. He exhaled slowly, as if considering something, then turned toward the nightstand. He picked up Adam's phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward me. My blood ran cold, because there, in the message thread, were texts between Adam and a number I didn't recognize. Envelope with Thero, unknown number. She won't suspect a thing. Envelope with Thero, Adam. She never has. Just keep her end of the deal. Envelope with Thero, unknown number. Trust me, she'll break first. I stared at the screen, the words blurring together. No, I whispered. This isn't real. But it was. Adam was lying to me. About what? About who? A cold realization gripped me. You set this up? I accused. You wanted me to see this. The man didn't deny it. He simply held my gaze, letting the truth sink in. You were the first betrayal, Emma, he said softly. But you weren't the only one. My hands clenched into fists. What the hell does that mean? He sighed, stepping closer, lowering his voice. It means Adam knew about Paris. It means this whole trip, this perfect honeymoon, wasn't about celebrating your marriage. He paused, his voice dropping to a near whisper. It was about punishing you for what you did. The floor tilted beneath me. No. Adam knew? I felt sick. My mind reeled, trying to connect the pieces, but nothing made sense. Why wouldn't he just confront me? Why go through all this? Unless. You're lying, I said again, but this time it was weaker. His fingers brushed against mine. You already know I'm not. I yanked my hand back. My heart pounded in my chest. Fear and fury battling inside me. Where is Adam? A knock at the door made my blood freeze. We both turned toward the entrance. The knock came again, firmer this time. A voice. Familiar. Adam. Emma? Open the door. My stomach dropped. I spun toward the man, panic flashing in my eyes. But he was already stepping back into the bathroom, disappearing into the steam, like he had never been there at all. I turned back toward the door. My pulse was racing so fast it hurt. I reached for the handle and opened it. Adam stood there, his face unreadable. But his eyes. There was something in his eyes I had never seen before. I swallowed hard. Where were you? His lips curled slightly. Too slightly. Ow! Why? My mind screamed at me to run, to ask the questions that needed asking. But I didn't, because I already knew. This wasn't just about me. This wasn't just about Paris. It was his game too, and I was trapped inside it.